Hello and welcome to our lesson on script interpretation. So we have been looking at a script, but that was a first look at a script. We didn't investigate that script to find out more about our character and more about our role in that. So the first exercise that we did in class was I gave you an emotion, one of those listed there, and then what you needed to do was deliver the line "what?" in that emotion. In pairs, you came up with the preceding line. So for example, if I gave you surprised, and you might work with your group and go, okay, what's your line? How about I'm pregnant? So you came out then and said, I'm pregnant, and then the line, what? Surprised came out. And then you stopped and did another one in a different style. So what that demonstrated was that lines can have different interpretations. And I also didn't get you to guess what the emotions were, because all of them could have been a mixture of some of these, because in life we have such a mixture of emotions at any one time. It's never as black and white as having one emotion. You can be mourning the loss of a loved one and someone says something amusing and it brings a smile to your face. So that's the beauty and the burden of emotions sometimes. So at the end, these are the questions you should be able to answer. So 1, who was Stanislavsky? What's the aim of realism? How do we understand what our role is in a production? And what's a super objective? No, what's a sub-objective? The bonus question, which I won't explain, but you should be able to work out, is what's a super objective? Stanislavski said, actors are in the habit of putting their attention only on the roles assigned to them. This is a mistake. It's very important that the performer senses the production as a whole, its entire intent. Then, by itself, the part given to you will become clear. So what Stanislavski was meaning when he said that was that we as actors are not the main reason people go to a performance. People go to performances to see a play, to see a production, to be entertained by a story and action on stage. You are simply a piece in the puzzle of that. And so we can't make it all about us. We need to understand the relationships of characters on stage. We need to understand the intent from the director. We need to understand the intent from the playwright and all those themes. So when we look at our role, we look bigger than ourselves and the rest will become clear. So the main style of theatre that this lends itself to, what we're discussing, is realism. So the development of psychology as a science made people really curious about human intentions and thinking more about why we do what we do sometimes. People really wanted to understand the human mind and personality better. And so that actually changed the way that plays were being written and performed. Because before this, it was melodrama, romanticism, plays that always had good endings. Men were the hero, women were the damsel who needed rescuing. Evil was always punished. And they were more event-based plays rather than looking at the internal workings of people. So rather than watching something where you connected with a person and their struggles, you just watched someone have struggles and then they would overcome them. So Stanislavski didn't like this, and he didn't like the way that it was artificial acting that was happening on stage. He wanted the actors to achieve psychological truth in their performances. So Stanislavski was really the father of modern theatre, a Russian director who came in and really came up with a system for changing the way that people connected with a character. So if you look up Stanislavski's system, you'll have a look, you'll be able to see what that is, and we'll go into that in another lesson. So the aim of realism was to recreate life on stage. You'd use realistic setting, realistic lighting, sound, and character, all to bring that together. There was the fourth wall. The fourth wall is the invisible wall that stands between you and the audience. So if you think of our theatre, we've got 2 walls, stage left, stage right, and then upstage you've got the cyclorama, which is a wall, and then you've got the audience. Now if you imagine a glass wall there so that you people can see in, you should not be looking through that at the audience. It creates the illusion of it being real life, and by looking at them, you break that illusion. So you think about the TV, people don't break that illusion for you, but if all of a sudden in some movies when they do look at the audience and break the fourth wall, you remember that you're watching a play or a movie or something like that. So the other thing is the proscenium arch that was to do with realism. And if you have a look here, this is the Thebe Theatre, which is in Adelaide. And there's a couple of points here. So one is it's quite a traditional sort of setup, except for the lights just here. So originally that sort of truss with all the lights wasn't there, and you would just have these two poles, okay, and across the top. And so and this little screen there covering all of the lights. That way when people went, they didn't see the lights changing, they just experienced it. So they couldn't see it, didn't distract them and make them look up, but the lights were changing. This is another sort of example where you can see that all the lights are covered, so when you go to this theatre, you would get lost in whatever world it is. Now if you think about our theatre isn't like that at all. Whenever you're there, people know they're watching a play because of those lights that are really above their head and exposed. So therefore it's up to the acting to be so engaging and believable for them not to be distracted by those things. So script detective, we need to understand a script. How do we do that? Well, we look for clues. The stage directions, the dialogue, two excellent ways to understand our character better, understand other people's character better. Now, if we have a look at this script right here, you can see a few things that we'll piece out. So have a read of that. You can pause the video. So I want you to think, where are they? What is Lee's reason for sitting down and pulling out his book? Why does Lee not look up from his book? So pause, answer those questions. We shared our answers and people came up with such a variety of responses, which is great. And they came up with lots of different motivations for why he's sitting down. Maybe he's very shy and doesn't want to talk to people. Maybe he's on his way to a school and he's got some homework he needs to get finished. Maybe he doesn't know the person, doesn't want the conversation. So what we did in this section then is you'll see there's an extra bit of dialogue, so you can pause and read that. And we came up with what is Lee's objective for this section and what's Dana's objective for this section. So if you think about what Lee's trying to do, well, Lee is trying to study. So his objective for this little unit, Lee is trying to study. Dana's objective for this section, well, she's trying to get Lee's attention. She's doing things to try and get him to look at her, maybe talk to her. So this is what we call a sub-objective. So a unit in a script with an objective. That's their objective, that's what they need to try to achieve. So here's another extra little bit of dialogue as well. So here we actually have another objective, because any script can be broken down into lots and lots and lots of units where there's some different objectives. So Dana's objective, well, she's trying to get him to talk to her, but he's not offering, he's just going with no answers. Lee is still trying to study. He's trying to ignore Dana, something like that. So now could you answer these questions? Who was Stanislavski? What's the aim of realism? How do we understand what our role is in a production? What's a super objective? What's a sub objective? And could you answer the bonus question, what's the super objective? Have a think about those things and come prepared to share next lesson. Now, homework that we missed was that we should be learning our lines from the breakup script. So that needs to be done by next lesson. And once you've done that, think about what is your objective for that scene. What is your objective? Okay? All right, bye.